Okay, everyone, so the purpose of this webinar is to go through our new NATE testing portal through Castle Worldwide. It is the MyNATE site that we launched in April. So what we're going to start with is just some changes to the Castle system and why we moved to it. The purpose of switching to the Castle system was to expand our services for testing, training, and certification as we continue to support the HVACR technicians and constantly changing HVACR industry. Really one of the main reasons was to make sure we have correct contact information for those technicians and increase the level that we can communicate with them and avoid duplicate records and make sure that those technicians are able to stay updated on their certification status. We wanted to be able to forecast and manage the cost of printing, shipping, and destroying unused paper exams now that we've changed to a print-on-demand model, meaning that we're able to make changes to the exams much quicker. We also wanted to improve the timeliness, accuracy, and access to information for our many stakeholder groups, which the new Castle site allows us to do. And most importantly, we wanted to maintain the integrity of our exam program and ensure that NATE remains that standard of certification for the industry. So we have made some changes since the Castle system launched. So if you used it back in April, there might have been some changes when you go to use the system now. Proctors can register the same candidate for multiple exams during the test session, all from one screen. So when you add them to the roster, you'll be able to select as many exams as they need. We also have created a Spanish language version of the exam for core, air conditioning service, heat pump service, and gas heating service. Candidates participating in multiple exams will only receive a single email with their activation codes as opposed to an email for each exam with a different activation code. And we also remove the reference for testing locations from the candidate confirmation emails, so you can use that location to quickly put in shipping information without confusing the technician. Proctors can now view those activation codes for test candidates through a report in the MyNATE system. So if that technician comes in to test and does not bring their activation code with them, you're still able to retrieve it and start the exam. We also expanded the window of time for the exam session to be opened. So it is now 24 hours on either side of the scheduled test time. And we also have launched the certification status validator on the natex.org website, where someone can run a NATE ID number through there and instantly see their certification status as well as expiration dates. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with how to use the website. So the very first step is logging in. To get to that login page, you will want to go to mynate.org. Your original MyNATE login will still work on the new site. If you can't remember your password, you can use that lost forgotten password link down there right below where it says password to reset it. And that will occur through an email. If you have never created a MyNATE login, meaning you have not logged into the MyNATE site since the original MyNATE site launched in April of 2012, you would need to create your MyNATE login. To do so, you'd want to go to that tab there that says First Time User, and then select the Proctors as your activation type. The site's then going to request three fields: activation code, NATE ID, and provider number. And those three fields correspond to your original pre-2012 login. So the activation code is going to correspond to your password, the NATE ID is your Proctor ID, and the provider number is your TO number. Again, this is only if you have not logged into the site since April of 2012. After that information is entered, you can click Activate, and your information is going to appear in the fields below. You just want to complete those remaining fields, which include selecting a username and password. Once you've filled out all those fields, you just click that Register button, and that's going to send you an email that just verifies your email address itself for password recovery. And then you just click on that link that comes in that verification email, and then log in one time, and that's going to verify your email address. So once you've logged in, you'll want to go to the Testing Sessions tab. From there, you're going to see a window that says My Testing Sessions, and in the upper right-hand corner of that window, there's going to be a plus sign that you click for to create a new testing session. And you can see there where that plus sign is located in the upper right-hand corner. The next step is going to ask you to select your testing organization. If you're a proctor for multiple testing organizations, they'll all be listed here, and you'll just want to click the select button to the right of the organization you're proctoring that exam on behalf of. The next window is going to ask you for general information about your test session. Certain choices will change what information is requested. So session type, that's where you're going to select whether you want a paper exam or an online exam. Session time, that's where you select a date and time for the session. This is the date and time you plan on starting the session. Online exams will be available 24 hours prior and after that scheduled time. So the time is very important for online exams as it modifies that 24-hour window. The date needed is only going to appear there if you select paper exams, and that's the date that NATE will deliver your exams by. NATE does require 8 business days for a print-on-demand vendor to process the order, print the exams, package them, and then ship them to you. If you do need rush shipping, please contact NATE customer service, and we can rush that order for you, but just be aware that there are additional fees for rushing orders. And this is what that screen looks like. So this will be the second screen you see after you select what testing organization you're proctoring for. You'll see there at the top you select the session type. Below that you select the session time, and then if it's a paper exam you'll put in the date needed there. All right. The next part of that window there is going to be the shipping address if you've selected a paper exam, and that's where NATE will ship the exams. You can use that use location address to autofill the testing organization's main location in that field. Again, if you want to send somewhere else, you can also fill out the field yourself freely. And then there's also a select proctor category. If you are creating through your Proctor login, you'll probably only see your name there. If you're also the testing organization's main contact, you can assign a different proctor for that particular session. And that's what the shipping address window will look like. So after you've created the test session, it's going to appear in your My Testing Sessions window. The next step would be to add a roster for that test session. And this process is the same whether you're doing a paper exam or an online exam. So what you'll want to do is click the Manage Roster button, and that's going to be the button to the far left under the Action heading. And that is going to open the roster management window. To add a technician to your roster, you just click that Add Technician button in the upper right-hand corner. You can then enter either the NATE ID number or email address for the technician. If the technician has tested before, the NATE ID number is the best choice for making sure a duplicate record is not created. Again, it's an either or, so you want to just put in the NATE ID number if you have it. You can skip the email address, and you're able to edit that email address after it finds the technician. If you do enter both, it is going to only search for records that have both of those fields completed how you have it entered in there. So if the technician's email address has changed, even if you have the NATE ID number, it's not going to find them. So it is best to just put in the NATE ID number if you have it. In this first example, we're going to act like we're searching for a technician that already has a record. So I searched just the NATE ID number, and so this will be the next screen you see when it finds a technician associated with that NATE ID. You can see there under technician email, there is a pencil there, so if you find that that email address is incorrect and has changed, you can click that pencil and change that email address for them. Below that, there's going to be a grid of all of NATE's available exams, and you just check off each exam that that technician wants to take in that test session. And this was an example for a new technician. So a technician that does not have a record, they will not have a NATE ID number. So you can put in their email address and then click Find Technician. It's going to search all records for that email address. If it does not find any record with that email address, it'll have you create a new record by entering the technician's first and last name. Please note that once the record has been created, you will not be able to change the name. So please do double check that spelling. If you find that there is an error after the fact, you can always contact NATE customer service and we'll be able to change that for you. And then for a new technician, process is the same for an existing technician. After you create the record, you just select which exams they need, and you just want to continue to repeat that process until every technician that's going to be in that test session has been added to the roster. You can review every technician and every exam in that roster management window at any time, and as soon as you add somebody and close that window, it saves your progress, so you don't have to do it all in a single sitting. And then once all technicians have been added to your roster, you can close that roster management window. So that's what the roster management window looks like as you continue to add technicians to it. And again, you can close that any time, reopen it, add more technicians as you get calls for it, or if you just want to take a break, you can always save your progress. Once you've completed the roster, you have the full roster onto that test session, you can submit the test session by clicking the Submit Testing Session button under the Action column. It'll be the one to the far right. Once you click that button, you're going to see a screen like this that's just going to check to make sure the date, time, location, and roster have been configured correctly. Basically what it's looking for is that the time is in the future and not the past, that there is a location listed for the exams to be shipped to, that there is a proctor attached to the session, and that there is a roster. The final step is going to be to select your payment option. So to do that, you click that Make Payment button. And then you'll have the option to either pay by invoice or purchase order, or pay up front with a credit card. If your organization wants to be invoiced but does not use purchase order numbers, you'll still want to click on that Pay by Purchase Order and then just enter None or Not Applicable. As before, NATE will only bill you for used exams. If your candidate is a no-show for an IBT or paper and pencil session, you will not be charged. So for internet-based testing, IBT, you just let the session close on its own. So after 24 hours, it automatically closes. And if that exam was never started, you will not be billed for it. And for paper and pencil exams, is just like before, as long as it's still sealed when returned to our testing vendor, you're not charged for that exam. So this is going to be the first screen you see when you click that Make Payment button. This is going to give you an overview of all the exams you've ordered, the quantity of them, and the price per exam, and then your total cost. And down there in the lower right-hand corner is where you can select your purchase method. This is what the screen would look like if you select Pay by Credit Card. It's a pretty standard credit card payment screen. If you do click that Pay by Purchase Order, this is going to be the screen you see. Again, if you do not use purchase order numbers, you can just write None in that purchase order information box and then click the Next. And then once the payment's been confirmed, you'll be able to go back to the checklist and submit your session. So once you click that Continue, it'll bring you back to that screen you saw before. And then to submit the testing session, you just click that Submit button down at the lower right-hand corner. If it is a paper exam session, that order is going to go to our print-on-demand vendor, and then they're going to start printing those exams, packaging them, and preparing to ship them to you. For online exams, it's going to open up and create that test session. Please note that once the test session has been submitted, the date, time, date, or shipping address for the session cannot be changed on your end. If it's very soon after you've clicked that Submit, you can contact NATE, and we might be able to intercept it before it's been sent and change that for you. Also, once you've submitted, you will not be able to alter which exams are being sent for paper exams. You would need to create a second paper exam session if you had additional paper exams to add to that session date. So that's what that screen is going to look like, and then just right there in the lower right-hand corner is how you finally do the final submission. And once the session has been submitted, you can review the roster at any time by clicking on that Manage Roster button again. For paper exam sessions, you won't be able to add new exams to it, but you can still review the exams that have been ordered. And you can also see there that any new technician, in our case the technician's name is New Technician, his NATE ID number has been assigned at this point. So the NATE ID number is required for the paper exams. It helps grade them much quicker if that NATE ID number is on there. So you can pull the NATE ID numbers for them by looking at that roster management window, or that technician can grab it from their profile. You can add walk-ins for online testing. I can do that by clicking on that Add Walk-in button and following the same steps as adding a technician to a roster. You will have to go through the payment portion for each walk-in added, and it's the same steps as the previous payment portion, but you'll have to do it for each individual technician. If you don't complete the walk-in process, the technician will still be added to the roster as pending. and then you can either complete that process by clicking the submit button or clicking on the trash can to just delete that person from the roster. So that's what that screen looks like there. I've added a new air distribution exam for myself. However, I didn't complete the payment portion, so it's still on there as pending, and I can either click the little airplane icon to submit it or click the trash can to remove it. So the technicians in your session are going to receive an email immediately after the session has been submitted. That email contains their exam codes. Those codes have two purposes. For online exams, that code is required to start that particular exam, so they are going to get a different code for each exam they have been registered for, all contained in a single email. For paper and online exams, that code is also used for first-time technicians to create their MyNate login. So that's an example of what that email looks like. So you see there I've been registered for 2 exams. If I had been registered for 4 or 5, they just continue to list down there. If the technician does not bring that activation code with them to your session, as the proctor, you are able to retrieve it. To retrieve that activation code, you want to click on your Reports tab on your MyNate page, and then select the report that is called Proctor Pass Candidate Credentials from the drop-down menu. And that report is going to list all the activation codes for all the exams for all the candidates in an active test session. So that means within 24 hours of your scheduled test date, either before or after. Candidates with existing MyNate logins can also retrieve their activation code by logging into MyNate and then going to their MyNate inbox. That MyNate inbox is going to save a copy of any automatic email that the system sends to their email, also gets copied there. So that's what that report looks like there. If you had an active test session, the first name, last name, NATE ID, exam name are all going to be listed there, and then the password, their activation code, is going to be on the far right-hand side. And if you look up towards the top of the screen, right above where it says C3 there, you'll see the golden envelope. And if you click that, that's where the technician themselves would be able to view their activation codes. After the technician receives that email, they can create their MyNate login at any time. Technicians with existing MyNate logins do not need to create a new account. All of their information was imported from the new system, or from the old system to the new. The technician, if they are new, would want to go to mynate.org and then select the First Time User tab. The technician will want to either select paper-based exam or computer-based exam, depending on their activation type. It will then ask them for their activation code, which is contained in that email, and their last name that they were registered under. The activation code contains all lowercase letters and numbers, and any kind of circular characters are zeros and not O's. So that's what that screen looks like there. This is new technician's activation code. So that the activation type, it was an online exam, so computer-based exam, and then the activation code from the email, and then the technician's last name. After which they just click that activate button. They'll see some of their information, fill in the fields below, and then they just need to complete the remaining fields, which include selecting a username and password. In order to send out results and certification packets to the technicians, NATE does need their mailing address. To add or update a mailing address, the technician needs to log into MyNate at least one time. The first time they log in, it's going to automatically pull up their profile, and then that's where they can go to edit their address. If it's not their first time logging into MyNate, they can edit it at any time by clicking on that profile icon, and that profile icon down there is highlighted in red. It'll be just to the right of their golden envelope. On their profile, there's going to be a mailing addresses window, and this is where they can go to add new addresses. To do so, they just click on that Add Address button, or to edit an existing address, they just click on that little pencil icon to the right of the address. The address with the star next to it, they can also click off. That is going to be the address we send the certification packet to. So if they want it sent to home, they just need to make sure that the star is highlighted next to their home address. If they want to send it to their workplace, they just need to make sure the star is highlighted next to their work address. NATE does suggest that technicians create their MyNate logins prior to the test session just to update their contact information. Please reinforce, particularly if you're in a paper exam session, that if the technicians do not provide their contact information, they will not receive their certification packets or mailed results until NATE gets that contact information. If the technicians have any difficulty creating their MyNate login or logging into MyNate if they already have an existing login, they can contact NATE customer support at either asknate@natex.org or our toll-free number there. So now we're going to move on to actually proctoring the session. So we're going to start with proctoring the paper session. So you should receive your ordered exams by your need-by date. The packets are going to be sealed and should remain sealed until the technicians arrive to test. When it is time to open up those sealed envelopes, they'll need to tear out the answer card, formula page, pressure temperature chart, survey, and code of conduct from the back of the booklet. NATE's code of conduct does need to be signed in order for the certification to be awarded. The answer card will also need to be completed in its entirety to guarantee a quick grading process. As I mentioned before, one of the fields on the answer card is the NATE ID number. The NATE ID number can be pulled at any time by you as a proctor from your roster management window when you log into MyNate and go to testing sessions, or the technician can pull their NATE ID number themselves by looking at their profile button on the MyNate page. All technicians, even new ones, will have a NATE ID number at the time of the exam, as NATE ID numbers are assigned to brand new technicians when the session is submitted. Once all the exams have been taken and sealed, please return the exams to Castle Worldwide at 900 Perimeter Park, Suite G in Morrisville, North Carolina, 27560. Please do not return them to the NATE offices in Arlington, Virginia. We will have to just forward them on to Castle, and that's going to add an extra 2 or 3 business days to the grading process. All right, now we're going to move on to online testing. So the first step, when you're ready to begin your exam, you'll want to log into MyNate and go to the Pass tab on your MyNate page. If that is the first time you're going to that tab, you will need to agree to the terms of use for the Pass site. Once you agree to the terms of use, you will be able to see your login for the Pass site. And please just note that this is a different login than you use for MyNate. It's going to be the same for everybody. It's going to be Nate _ and then a series of numbers, and your password is also going to be a series of numbers. If you don't immediately see your login, you can either hit F5 or click on that Pass tab again, and that's going to refresh the page. And then you should see your Pass username and password. And right below your username and password, there is going to be a direct link to the Pass site that will open in a new tab. And that makes it very easy to just copy and paste your login information over to that new window. So that's what that Pass page looks like there. You see I have already agreed to the terms of use, so my user ID and password are showing there. And then the link right below it to go to the Pass site. Once you're at the Pass site, you'll want to run the requirements test to make sure your computer and browser are configured properly to use that site. Things like an updated browser, cookies enabled, JavaScript enabled, and so on are necessary for the site to run on your computer. All those items are free downloads, and you likely already have them installed and enabled on your computer, as many different websites use those different things. So that's what that looks like there. You'll see as you go onto the site, on the left-hand side there under Proctor, there's that link there that says Requirements, and that'll bring you to this page, and then you just click that where it says Click here to test now. That'll run the test on your computer, and then it'll give you the report here down the middle, and it'll have each item listed and whether or not you passed or failed. If you did fail one of the tests, it will have directions on how to enable that. And if you have any trouble, you can always contact NATE customer support, and they should be able to help you either walk you through how to enable cookies or how to enable pop-up windows and so forth. You'll then see a page asking you if you want to enable Castle Lockdown, and if you're not on Internet Explorer, it'll also tell you it's only available on Internet Explorer, and that's going to lock your computer to just that browser window. NATE does not require Castle Lockdown, so you do not need to select to have it enabled. We would advise that you don't, just so it's one less thing you have to have active. If you do have an active session, you will be able to click on the Continue button If you've logged in too early, so you're more than 24 hours prior to the scheduled test time, your continue button is going to be grayed out and you will not be able to continue. So that's what that page is going to look like. In the top screenshot there, I do not have any scheduled exams at that time, so I cannot continue. Down here, I have requested a demo password by clicking that link to the right there, so I could create a demo for this webinar. So you'll see now that the continue button is highlighted, and there's where you would select to use Castle Lockdown. Again, you can skip that. You do not have to start the Castle Lockdown. On the next page, you will need to select the candidate's name from the drop-down menu. Only candidates registered for your session or other sessions at your testing organization within that time frame are going to be visible there. The next portion is going to have you verify the technician's photo ID, and then you will need to agree to different attestations before continuing. Pretty standard things like I'm not helping this person on this test and so forth. So this is what that looks like. So this is where you'd grab candidate name. You would see anybody registered for your test session. If a different proctor at your same testing organization initially created the session, but let's say they got sick and were unable to proctor the session, you could step in and you would be able to see their candidates here without doing anything. And then right below that, you select what kind of ID, photo ID they've shown you, and then depending on what you select, it'll have you enter in, for example, with driver's license, it'll have you enter the state. And then below that, you just check off each one of those attestations, and then check off that last box, and then you'll be able to continue to the next page. On this next page, the candidate is going to enter in the activation code for the exam they want to start. Please note that each exam is going to have its own activation code. So for example, if they wanted to start the core exam first, you just have to make sure that they are entering in their core activation code. Please have them verify if any of their information is correct above. It's going to have all their mailing address information there, and they'll have a chance to update that. If it is blank, please have them enter in their information because Nate will not be able to send them a certification packet until we get that mailing address. Also, please note that the passwords are case sensitive. So in Nate's case, all of our activation codes are lowercase. So for this example, the only information to verify is date of birth. On Nate's version of it, it is just your mailing address. And then that is a demo password, so it does have capital letters there. Nate's actual passwords are all lowercase. So once the activation code is entered in there, you can click Continue, and that's going to bring you onto the next screen. On that screen, the candidate will just have to agree to several attestations as well. Again, these are standard things. I'm not helping anybody on the exam. I'm not cheating on the exam. And down at the bottom, they'll just need to type in the words I attest in order to continue. Once the candidate's checked off all those boxes and typed in I attest, the Continue button will light up, and they'll be able to continue on to the next page. So this is that page there. So you just check off all those attestations, and then down at the bottom they type in I attest, just like it's written above, and then that Continue button will light up, and they'll be able to continue on to the next page. The next screen is going to ask the candidate if they want to start the exam or see a demo. The demo is not a Nate practice exam. It's just a demonstration of the actual online testing platform. So if they want to play around with the navigation tools, see how to open attachments and so forth, that's where they can go to do that. That's not going to affect their testing time. Again, the demo is not required, so if they want, they can just begin the exam immediately. If they select to begin the exam, the next screen is going to allow the candidate to launch the exam. A message may pop up letting them know that a browser window they're currently in will be closing. Please have them click yes and allow that window to close. The exam will open in a new window. Having the exam or them logged in to pass in multiple windows will cause an error to occur, which will boot off the technician and force them to have to log in again. So please make sure if they get any sort of pop-up that asks them if they want to close the window they're currently in, please click yes. So that's what that launch exam window looks like. And again, you see that in there in bold. Just as a reminder, if the browser asks them to confirm closing a window, again, have them click yes. and then the candidate will now be taking that exam. There's different tools that they can use to navigate around the online page. So the first group of navigation tools are going to be the first question, previous question, next question, last question, and go to. And those are all navigational tools. The technician will not have does not want to use the forward and back button on their browser. They want to use the previous question, next question buttons on the online testing platform. The go-to will allow them to jump to a question number, so they could type in, for example, 24, and then click go to, and that'll bring them to question number 24. There's also a previous flag, and next flag buttons. Those will allow the candidate to mark questions to review later. The middle flag button is the one that allows them to flag that question, and then the other two are navigation buttons, bringing them to the previous question that they had flagged or bringing them to the next question they had flagged. There's also a timer showing the remaining time left for the exam. If seeing that countdown clock makes the technician nervous, there is a hide button so they can hide that counting down clock. There is a counter right below the exam questions that are going to show how many unanswered questions, answered questions, or flagged questions the technician has left, and they can use that to help keep track of progress through their exam. There is also a help button that's going to just explain these buttons I just went over. Again, the test time is not going to stop while that help is open, so if they're unsure, they haven't taken many exams on an online platform, I would highly suggest that you have them do the demo first so they don't have to use that help button while they're taking the actual exam. So that's what the online platform will look like. You see the navigational tools here in the upper left-hand corner, the counters in the lower left-hand corner, flag buttons here in the middle, calculator help, and then the show and hide timer there. And then in the upper right-hand corner, that's where they'll click to submit the exam. Some questions will have attachments that need to be viewed, diagrams and things like that. Clicking attachment 1 will open the attachment in a separate window. When they're finished with that attachment, the technician will just want to close that window. So that's what it looks like here. Here we got a sample test question that has a attachment with it. So they just click attachment on the right-hand side there. They can see the attachment, view the attachment, and then when they're done with it and are ready to answer the question, they can just click that X there on the attachment 1, and then that'll close just the attachment without closing their testing session. When the candidate is ready, they can click on that Submit Exam button, or if they run out of time, the exam will automatically submit. It will bring them to a screen with a summary of the exam. It'll tell them how many unanswered questions they have left, if any, or how many flagged questions they have left, if any. If the candidate still has time left on the exam, there's a button to return them to the exam, or they will have individual question buttons for any of those unanswered or flagged questions they have left. That'll bring them directly back to that question. When they're completely done, the candidate would need to write in "I understand" in the box at the end of the summary, and then click the button that says "Yes, end the exam now." And so that's what that summary looks like. In this demo, I did not answer question 8, and I also flagged question 8 to review, so it's coming up under both. I still have time left, so I can click that button there that says "No, return the exam," and that's just going to bring me back to whatever question I was on when I clicked the Submit button, or I can click on either one of those two 8 buttons, and that'll bring me to question 8. And then down there at the bottom, that's just where they have to type in the words "I understand," and then click "Yes, end the exam now" to submit the exam early without time running out. The final screen the candidates will see is their results screen, and that screen is going to let them know if they passed or failed the exam. Again, NATE still does not give out scores for our exam. All of our exams are pass-fail, and candidates will have a more detailed score report available for them on MyNATE if they failed the exam. And that'll have a breakdown of the major domain areas of the NATE exam and the percentage of questions they answered correctly. And that is the end of our presentation here. So I will open it up for questions if you want to type those into the chat on the webinar tool.